You're entering the bonus stage, a podcast produced in association with oceanofbees.com, with your host Marauder,
Phoenix923,
a podcast for all gamers,
console and PC alike.
Welcome to Bonus Stage.
Hello and welcome to Bonus Stage, a podcast produced in association with oceanofbees.com. As always, I'm your host Marauder, and this week we do not have Phoenix923 sitting next to me. Instead, I've enlisted the help of somebody from the website by the name of Jab. Introduce yourself, Jab.
Hello. I do have some pretty large boots to fill, I think. Phoenix923 is quite a presence. I think you'll agree. But people probably know me best as the Inspector or any of my other ridiculous characters. You can tell if they're mine if they have a silly accent, really.
Yeah, you do the One Death Seth series, you do the PC Inspector series, and the Off the Chain.
Off the Chain.
Yes. You produce probably more content than I do for the site.
Yeah, you're catching up though with your blogs and all these podcasts, although if I keep muscling in on them, I'm going to have the monopoly of that front page pretty soon.
Yep. It's amazing how much work you can put in. Anyway, well, you were the guy that actually, I guess, recruited me for the site, so you've been with Ocean of Bees a lot longer than I have.
You could call me Mr. Ocean of Bees.
Yeah, so do explain the origins of the website.
You want me to explain the origins of the website or the title of the website?
I thought that was part of the origins.
Not really. We had the idea for the website long before we had the title.
Well, explain how the website came about.
Okay. I could wind all the way back to how the Inspector started, if you want, because that kind of leads into Ocean of Bees.
Yeah, wherever you want to start.
Okay. About a year ago and a couple of months, I was put onto the Angry Video Game Nerd videos, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. But once I'd watched every single one of those videos, I was looking around YouTube for something similarly entertaining, and then I realised everything else is kind of just a cheap imitation of this, and it's not really up to par. You've got some chumps out there like the Irate Gamer, for instance, who aren't really that good at what they do. And I thought, you know, I could do this, but I don't just want to rip off the Angry Video Game Nerd, because that's been done repeatedly by everybody now. So what's the absolute opposite of an Angry Video Game Nerd? What about somebody who's just really nice about the games, even if they're really bad? Somebody who just has to be really polite. And that ties into something else, which was I always wanted to do some kind of character using a ridiculous top hat outfit and a monocle. And the whole costume basically was to have a cane and everything. Just the stereotype. I always wanted to do that. So then that tied in nicely with somebody who's just being really nice. Although that wasn't the first idea we had. I was talking with, you'll know him as Sammy Kablam or Max Finsettler or whatever else he's calling himself these days. We were throwing around ideas for series for reviewing games. One was the Game Canary. The whole canary concept being somebody that's lowered down into the depths of terrible game coal mining, effectively. And then when he dies, you know the game has become too bad, so you're not going to buy it. But that wasn't deemed to be workable. And in the end, we just settled on the PC Game Inspector. And that took off quite well.
Yeah, I think you have the most subscribers of anybody on your YouTube page, at least anybody associated with Ocean of Bees.
Yeah, I just surround myself with the lower classes. We don't recruit anyone who's actually got a lot of subscribers. Nothing to do with the fact they wouldn't actually look at us twice. It's entirely because we just like helping people. I swear.
Right. So the name, where did the name come from?
The name Ocean of Bees, the group of us are bonded together basically by our unbridled passion for watching terrible movies together and making fun of them relentlessly. kind of like the whole Mystery Science Theatre thing, but just our own private amusement. And there's this one film called Mercy. This is a big letdown, this story, by the way. It's this film called Mercy. It's really bad, black and white, tries to be really artsy, like, fails quite miserably, and it's just horribly boring, nothing really happens. There's this one scene where the guy is looking out over the sea, or a lake or something, and there's this really loud buzzing noise at the same time while the camera cuts back between him and the water. And then somebody commented something like, "Where is he, in an ocean of bees or something?" And then we all thought that was hilarious, so we ended up building on that and coming up with the idea, what if all the Earth's water was replaced with bees? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that would work out.
I don't think it'd be too good for the fish, really.
So the name basically originated from a really bad movie.
Yes. Because we were looking for an idea to name the site something, because we just hadn't come up with anything yet at that point. But we knew we wanted to have a website where we could all put our various video series. Once the Inspector took off, and other people started adding their own content, then we wanted somewhere to host it. So that's it.
Cool. Well, so yeah, I got joined with you guys probably a year ago now. I don't even remember. Yeah, I started doing my own videos just because I had nothing else to do. And just started throwing shit on YouTube. And I think it was you who contacted me first.
Yeah, we had a few recruitment strategies. One of them was just type in, like, game reviewer on YouTube and stuff would come up. That's how we found Cheapy, I believe. Just type in game reviews and then looked at him. Usually you get a ton of garbage, and then occasionally you'll find something where you can see potential, but obviously there's a reason that people don't have a lot of subscribers, and it's because if they have a good idea, they're just taking it in slightly the wrong direction for one reason or another. And Cheapy had a few production issues, which we steered him in the right direction on. So he was our first outside recruit. And then I found you because whenever somebody subscribes to my channel, I always check out their channel just to see who's subscribing to me, see if there's any big shots or anything. And then I just watched one of your videos and I thought, we could do something with this guy. So I sent you a message seeing if you wanted to put out a regular game review series. And the rest is history.
Yeah, it was actually Phoenix923 who brought the PC Inspector to my attention. He's like, this guy's actually really hilarious. And so, yeah, I went through, watched a bunch of videos, and I was like, yep, gonna follow this guy. And by that afternoon, I think I was in a Skype call between Max and yourself. I remember that quite well because I wasn't on my laptop at the time. My laptop had broken and I had to mail it away to get fixed. So I was on this really old, I think it was a Pentium 3 desktop, and that could just barely chug along. And you guys were like, yeah, you could throw up some game review videos and be like, and do that whole thing. And like, yep, as soon as I get my laptop back, I'll try.
And you weren't even sure that you were fully behind the concept of just doing a game review series, were you? You wanted to be doing a lot of different things.
Well, yeah, my channel basically lacks direction because I find that if I don't follow through with a lot of things that I start, so my idea was just to keep doing a bunch of things so that I don't lose interest. Like, I launched the channel because I wanted to do movie reviews. That was the concept. And so my friends and I got together and I think I have like 6 of them up. And I had a series called Random Reviews, and I did that so that I could review anything I wanted, throw it up on YouTube, and just let it go. And I think that was one of the things you mentioned you had a problem with my channel, was the fact that there wasn't really a solid direction for
Yeah,
it.
that's what we wanted to steer you towards. By the way, starting things and not following through with them makes you perfect for oceanofbees.com.
How so?
That's kind of the trademark. Outside of me, everybody's kind of had their issues with putting out content on time and regularly. We did have the Mantis-style comics, which kind of ran for a few months and then ground to a halt because the artist is incredibly busy. Had the Sammy Kablam series. He's had his issues with getting a camera and all his equipment. And then when we recruited the I Want to Be a Reviewer guy, aka Josh DeFeo, he hadn't put out a video for a year when we contacted him. So I don't know what we were expecting, really.
I was going to say, I haven't seen much from him since he got recruited.
Yeah, he's put out a couple of new ones. He's been busy as well. And then the guy we're all patiently waiting for to put something out is the Onion Boy.
Who is this person?
Well, he's actually been with us since the beginning. He was one of the original group who was going to be doing something for the site. We were actually waiting on him for a month or two before we set up the site to start his series, so it's kind of lucky that we didn't wait in the end, because that was like a year ago. And he hasn't put out any videos yet. But they're coming. We're assured.
Yeah, it takes me about a month to do a game review, give or take. But in the meantime, I do a blog, and I do this podcast as well.
The game reviews are the parts that take me the longest, by far. Everything else I can just kind of get it straight out there. The game reviews do take quite a long time. Mainly just going through all the game footage and picking out which parts I want to use. Once I've got to the script stage, it's quite easy from there, because that just kind of flows easily.
Yeah, I'm actually on the script stage of a review right now. I do the script, and then I go back through and find all the footage, and then I put the review together. So it takes about 2 days of editing, and then I post it if I'm happy with it. Yeah, so Ocean of Bees, check it out. Really nice website. Has a lot of content on it. That's updated fairly regularly, I'd like to say. Okay, so as always, we're going to check out what is new on oceanofbees.com, and how fitting we have the PC Inspector here with us, or Jab rather, because the 2 videos that are new are actually his. Actually, you pretty much own the entire video section of the front page of the site at the moment.
I'll be completely unbiased in my assessment of these videos.
Alright. The first new video we have is Off the Chain Episode 4. And it's Nigel Burns talking about another keychain that he found, or that he has in his collection. This one from the Queen of England, apparently.
I do love Nigel Byrne. Completely unbiased.
Yes. And, yep, really funny video as always. Quite short, so it's a really easy watch. Go check it out. And the next video is the Inspector Online Team Fortress 2, Episode 13. Basically, with the PC Inspector messing with people on Team Fortress 2. And I
assume you've watched that.
Yes, I have. It's nice to see that you overthrew the Pan Revolution. That was great.
That was a tricky moment. There were some issues with recording Team Fortress 2 in the last couple of months. People wondering why there hadn't been any new ones. It was because when they released the new update, it stopped Fraps working until I found a solution online. So, Team Fortress 2 is back on the menu.
That's interesting. I've used Fraps before to record various things, and yeah, I've never had a problem with it.
And I've had a problem with it until a few weeks ago, when they brought out the new update.
Alright, well, good thing you found a workaround, because that was hilarious. How do you find the games you're going to do? Do you just, for those online things, do you just play what everyone else is playing and see if it's workable?
Basically, anything that has multiplayer with people who actually speak, that's the important thing. Probably saw I did one Killing Floor episode and it wasn't too successful. I had to really try hard to get people to say anything on that game. I had to really provoke them. It wasn't as funny or natural as the others.
Right. Not like Left 4 Dead or...
Left 4 Dead's really easy because it's heavily team-based anyway, so most people do talk.
Mm.
Team Fortress, slightly harder, you have to play for a bit longer, but I think it's worth it in the end because it has a huge community with the game being free and people loving hats.
Right.
So there's a much wider audience to appeal to with that. That's where I got over half my subscribers from, probably. It's from Team Fortress 2. Which is why I persist with it. Because originally, the Inspector was supposed to be entirely just game reviews. And there haven't been too many of those recently. Because I found that if I do a video that isn't Team Fortress, sometimes I'll gain subscribers, sometimes I'll lose a couple. So there's obviously some people that just subscribe to watch those videos. So gotta give the people what they want.
It's a good series. I enjoy it. It's always fun to see what people will say. Now, do most people know who you are when you jump on?
On Team Fortress, nobody does, really, because it's such a huge community for the comparatively small amount of subscribers. My most viewed Team Fortress 2 video has about 10,000 views, which is tiny in the amount of players on Team Fortress. In the Left 4 Dead community, though, I'm quite well known, so sometimes I'll have to jump around games to find people who don't know who I am. Not only because I've made the videos, but also I was involved in the Left 4 Dead 2 competitive scene for a while as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me quite famous, you could say.
Interesting. Anyway, and on to the blog section. We have one new blog, which is my review of the remake of Total Recall.
Oh, I can't believe you haven't seen the original.
Yeah, I could have swore that I had, and as I was sitting there watching this movie, I'm trying to compare it in my mind to the other movie, and I slowly began to realize sitting there that I hadn't actually seen it. I have a friend of mine going to rectify that very shortly.
Are you positive that you haven't seen it, the original?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of wiped from your mind?
Yes,
you sat in the chair to watch the new one. I haven't built that technology in.
I'm pretty certain, yes, I didn't have my mind wiped in order to forget. But yeah, if you guys want to know what the how the movie is, go ahead and check out my review. I think it's one of my better written ones, personally. What I end up doing is when I go to the theater, I generally have a pad of paper and a pen.
Most people just sneak a camera in, to be honest.
Can't do that. But yeah, and I will jot down things I like, things I don't like. And then when I get home, I just quick type that out. And then I'll come back to it, I'll let it sit overnight. And then I'll write the review the next morning. Although Total Recall took me a couple days because I got super busy and didn't have time to actually put that out. But, yep.
I don't know if I want to see a new Total Recall, because the old one is one of my favourites. I must have seen it like 20 times. I think it's only behind Monty Python and the Holy Grail in my all-time viewing figures.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the first one, but this one, it is what it is, I guess. But anyway, if you wanna see how it is, go ahead and check out my review of it. And yes, I'm going to rectify the problem of not seeing the original shortly.
Damn time.
Anyway, so moving on, we got a couple topics. Since you brought up competitive gaming, I thought we'd bring that up as a topic, because I used to be a bit into competitive gaming a couple years ago. So, how did you come about getting into that particular scene, and what exactly did you play competitively?
Really, the only game I've played... Well, actually, that would have been a lie. I could go back in time a few years, and I did play Command & Conquer Generals semi-competitively. I did enter a few tournaments in that. But I didn't get to any especially high level. And I gave up on that game as soon as the expansion came out. Mainly because the expansion was required to fix a bug in the original game, which I was strongly opposed to. You shouldn't have to pay to fix the game, should you? So that put me off that game forever. And then in the last couple of years, the only game I really played competitively was Left 4 Dead 2. And I got into that just through sheer chance, basically. People I randomly played with and put on my friends list ended up in a clan, and they invited me to be in it, and that was it, basically.
Did you ever make money at it?
No, not that competitively.
And you've put in, like, how many hours now, would you say, on that game?
Between Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, I probably have over 2,000 hours. I've played with people that have way more than that.
Yeah, that's a far cry from my 262 hours, according to Steam.
Yeah, I did used to practice on Left 4 Dead 2 every night, learning all the tricks.
Yeah.
That ate up a lot of time, though. And that's probably why I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing I found was I used to play StarCraft competitively, and it was kind of more of a local thing, like different clans in Michigan used to like funnel money together and then divvy it out to whoever wins, whichever team wins. And so I never played nationally or anything, I don't think. But played mostly through high school, and then I kind of just gave up on it when I realized I didn't care for the game that much.
The way I look at competitive gaming, if you're not going to make a career out of it, which maybe, how many people in the world would you say make a career out of competitive gaming? A handful?
Yeah.
It's very, very low odds. So what are you ultimately gaining from it? Other than just having some fun, at the end of it, what are you going to have to show for it? And that's why I'm not really interested in spending that much time on any one particular game anymore. I decided to put all my efforts into something that I would actually have something to show for in making videos and having a growing audience, and actually leaving a mark, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's one reason I started doing the videos, was partially to do movie reviews, but partially because I have such a massive game collection. And you watch these videos of these people who do these collection updates, and they talk about the stuff they buy, and it's like, I have that. And then I realized I have a lot more games than most people do. And actually, some of my more popular videos are my complete collection videos, which take up like a half hour to an hour, where I just go through an entire game collection that I have. I did the DS and the PSP. Those have like a couple thousand views each.
Actually, I remember when I was looking at your channel for the first time, one of my first impressions was, oh god, I hope it's not one of those boring guys who just goes through his games collection. But thankfully I actually watched one of your game reviews and not just the collection. Because that's really overdone, I think, on YouTube, people going through their game collections. Unless they have some unique way of doing it.
Right. Yeah, I don't really... It was just something to do in between movie reviews, just to keep content going out.
It's a fun thing for someone that already has existing content, but some people would just build their entire channel around the fact that they have this collection, and here is a pan of it, the end. And that's not really entertaining in my book.
Oh no, I generally sit down and about every time I get about 10 games or so, I'll sit down and do an update.
Yeah, you typically go quite in-depth about each game and each manual and whatnot.
Oh yes. Actually, the game that I'm going to do next is, if anybody's heard of it, it's called Awesome Possum Kicks Dr. Machino's Butt.
I have not heard of that.
Yeah, it's a game released by Atari for the Sega Genesis back in '93, I think. Anyway, I found a complete copy of it at a local convention I went to, and picked it up. It's ridiculous. I won't go too in depth with it, but essentially it rips off Sonic the Hedgehog but with Mario, if that makes sense. Like, you play as this possum in Sonic the Hedgehog kind of levels with like ramps and things, but you essentially have the moveset of Mario. So you have to jump on top of the enemies, which doesn't really help when most of the enemies are flying enemies.
My brain has been fried.
Yeah, and on the back of the box, and one thing I immediately knew I'd want to review this game was they tout that he has, I think, over 80 different sayings, which basically means he doesn't shut the hell up.
Well, that's always good.
So, yep. So it's going to be an interesting one. I have so many jokes to write, things that I just thought were ridiculous in that game. But I've also have a series called I do like bonus episodes whenever I have additional content that doesn't really fit into the retro adventure line of things. And I think I only have one video in that series, which is like a Pac-Man tournament. My friends and I did it at a local arcade. But I'm going to probably do another one using the manual for that game. Because the manual has like a comic book in it that is probably one of the worst comic books I've ever read. So just a video of me going through the comic book and commenting on it. Might be fun.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Should be. Hopefully it's enjoyable for people. And then I have another series that I'm just getting underway called Game Not Included, which is I'm going to be talking about various console accessories, third-party controllers, and so on and so forth for systems, because I also have a lot of those that I haven't really done anything with. I kind of wanted to put it in the Retro Adventure line, which is why in the intro you see me holding up 2 controllers at that one point, because I wanted to kind of try to meld it into that series, but it doesn't really seem to want to fit.
I do like that one seemingly out of place shot in your intro, where you're kind of holding up a controller and kind of looking to the side, and it seems like kind of awkward shot. And then the rest of it is kind of smooth compared to that. I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, that everybody comments on that one part in the intro where I'm just like staring, holding up 2 controllers. I shot that intro in about an afternoon in my basement, and so I was just recording any random thing I could think of that could go into a montage style shot. And yep, that's one thing I came up with that I liked at the time, but the more and more I look at it, the less and less I enjoy it. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be redoing my intro soon as well. Alright, so we're going to move on to the question and answer section of this podcast. And of course, I don't have any questions asked by listeners. Remember, if you guys do want to leave questions, please do leave them in the comments below, or you can leave them on the oceanofbees.com forums in the podcast post.
You mean this show's vast audience couldn't even muster up a single question?
Well, we had one episode that was mostly questions from people. Actually, the entire episode was nothing but answering questions, which was nice. But yes, generally we don't get too many questions. So, please, if you have anything to ask at all that's game-related, that's, a serious question and not just, like, something stupid, do leave it below, and we will get to it in the next podcast. But anyway, so I thought we could turn this portion of the podcast into just a Q&A with the Inspector, or Jab, or whoever you want to be. You have so many different characters.
Almost too many.
Yeah, I have one, and it's me. And then I have different series that are about me. Anyway, so a couple questions is, how did the PC Inspector evolve? You mentioned a bit about how you do the online series where you mess with people on top of your game reviews, but explain more of the evolution of the character, because he's quite an interesting bloke, I guess.
Well, the original concept was just, as I mentioned, the incredibly polite guy playing these terrible games, not being too critical of them, because that wouldn't be proper. But his voice actually is the one thing that's evolved the most since the first episode, I think. Because for the first episode, I did not want to sound like the guy from Monty Python who comes in the middle of sketches and says, "Nope, stop it, this is getting silly." I did not want to sound like that guy, because I was conscious that it could kind of infringe into that territory, so I did not want to go near that voice for fear of it sounding like a rip-off. So the inspector kind of started off like, "Hello." It was really kind of low and soft kind of voice. And then over time, it's just naturally... I don't know whether the inspector as a character kind of toughened up or what, or whether the games slowly wore on him over time. It kind of turned into kind of almost a whinier kind of voice. Like, "Yep," which obviously became the catchphrase that everyone loves. And then Jenkins was introduced. I was going to say a funny story behind Jenkins, but I don't know if it's that funny. Basically, to amuse one of my younger brothers, I used to, in silly voices, just act out these little scenes between like a wealthy landowner and his servant, basically. And they would always revolve around him firing his butler. And then he would be like, "But I've been in your family for generations, my lord. You can't sack me." And that was basically the gist of every single bit. And I just like doing that voice. And it's really surprisingly easy on the throat as well. People think that should hurt to do that voice, but it doesn't. As far as the videos go, originally it was just supposed to be game reviews, but people reacted really positively to the Inspector Online videos, and that's where I got a lot of my subscribers from. I do try to branch out into other things as well, like the Inspector's Sweet Tooth. I'm not sure about how well that goes down, but at least I get to eat stuff. And the Inspector's life lessons usually go over well, although there has to be something specific I want to talk about for those. Something needs to be going on. Maybe if I get another haircut, I can do another one of those. On haircuts again. How to get a proper haircut this time, instead of getting it the wrong way. And also the green screen effect is a big change as well. So you may actually buy that the Inspector lives in this huge mansion now, instead of just this tiny corner of an attic, which is what it looked like for the first year or so.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw your green screen, I thought it was very effective.
Kind of wish I had that from the beginning.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it. That's kind of one thing. That's kind of one thing that I think hurts a lot of, I guess, YouTube makers, is the fact that like it's all about where you record. Because my recording area is in my basement, only because the lighting is better, and you know it's secluded, so I can go and do my thing and not bother anybody.
Most people on YouTube seem to think it's alright to record in a dark, dingy-looking room right next to a huge industrial fan.
Oh yes,
or a wind tunnel, or a washing machine, or...
I have to state, you do have competition in the YouTube space by this character calling himself the Game Inspector, which is... I don't know if you copyrighted the PC Inspector as a trademark, but you should totally sue him for infringement.
I don't know if I want to be that cruel. He has some issues.
No, but yeah, that's one thing that I can't stand about various people's videos, is when they're recording right next to their computer, so it's picking up all the little noises, especially the noise of the fan.
And if they manage to avoid that, then they play really loud background, well, it's supposed to be background music over their own voice, and they whisper.
Right, exactly. And then they post it like, "Yay, I'm done, good for me."
Can I just say, anyone who's thinking about making a video series, if you must have a retarded cousin character, do not portray it yourself in a hat. Everyone seems to fall into this trap. I've seen at least 3 different video series where the main host of the show has played his own retarded cousin, and the only difference is he wears a hat and he talks like an idiot. Don't do it.
Yes, that was quite insulting, I should say. But it's not too bad. He is definitely I don't want to give him too much press or anything on this podcast because he's atrocious. But he has 400 subscribers, so that means somebody's watching it.
Well, the irate gamer has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, doesn't he? And that's sad. He doesn't even allow comments on his videos, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, I think. You want to entertain people and get their feedback. The only way I would delete comments on YouTube, if it was something really ridiculously offensive that served no purpose, then yes, because people just don't want to be reading that kind of thing. Or if I asked for something specifically in the comments section, like a poll that I want to take of the audience, vote on this or this, and somebody puts in a really controversial viewpoint on something that's going to spark a huge debate that's going to fill up the entire comment section and people are going to forget what I'm asking them to put, then I'll probably delete that as well. But apart from that, I don't really censor anything comment-wise, and I've even done the videos that the Inspector responds to the critics.
Yeah, I generally just let comments, I don't know, land, because I don't really care.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do, but I've learned that occasionally you will have to step in. Once the audience grows, you're going to get a few people that step out of line.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our last segment in the podcast, which is games we've been playing, where basically we talk about what we've been playing recently. And Jab, if you want to start on this.
Okay, well, I was in kind of a dilemma recently with what to play, because I'd just finished Space Marine and Trine 2, which were both excellent, and I didn't really know where to go next. So first of all, I installed Wolfenstein, the kind of recent version of Wolfenstein, and that seems okay. Just your typical shooter with the twist that there's going to be all ghoulish things going on. Nothing too interesting to report on that. And the other one that I've been playing recently is Risen, which I'd heard was really bad. Somebody described it to me as 2 worlds bad. But I've been playing it and it seems pretty good, actually. It's kind of like a not quite as good version of The Witcher, I'd say. It's the same kind of mature content, it's just not as polished, I'd say. Have you played any of those games?
I remember playing Wolfenstein back on the original Xbox back in like 2002.
Would that be the original Wolfenstein?
No, they remade it. They remade Wolfenstein 3D as like a general first-person shooter back in 2002, and then they re-released, and then they did Wolfenstein again on the 360 and PC like 2 or 3 years ago.
Because we haven't had enough.
And yep, that was the only one I've played. I've played Wolfenstein 3D on my Atari Jaguar, if that tells you anything.
You're not much of an RPG guy, are you?
No, I generally don't care for RPGs too much. There are a few I like, but not too many.
I'd consider my 2 favourite game series to be Mass Effect and The Witcher. So, RPGs are pretty much what I look for these days. Although, oddly enough, I haven't played any of the Elder Scrolls games. So,
And I bet you're pretty happy about that, because I hear those take a couple hours out of your life.
well, I did play about 20 minutes of Oblivion a couple of years ago. Couldn't really get into it that fast, and then never picked it up again yet. We'll see what happens in the future, though. Got a lot of games to get through first.
Any other games you've been playing?
other than just Terraria, however you want to pronounce it, with a few other people from oceanofbees.com. That's always fun when you get 4 or 5 people in there.
Yeah, that was a game that I just can't get into.
And then I was playing Payday the Heist with you guys a couple of times. That's pretty fun.
Oh yes, very much like that game.
Better than I thought it'd be.
Oh yes, it's far better than I assumed it would be too. I remember reading an article in a game magazine about Payday the Heist before it even came out, and just the idea of a 4-player co-op shooter where you're robbing banks and doing other things like that just sounded like a really good concept that hadn't been done to death before, like every third-person cover-based shooter ever made. So yeah, picked it up when it went on sale, and it's loads of fun.
Yeah, if you ever have fantasies about shooting loads of police officers, this is probably the best way to do it. Probably.
Yep, I mean it plays a lot like, I would say, Left 4 Dead 2, but that's... Yeah, it's basically Left 4 Dead 2, but instead you're just playing as bank robbers and such. And there's all these different kind of special police officers you have to take down and things like that, so it does command a lot of teamwork.
I'd say we wiped out a couple of full citywide police forces last night.
Yeah, for some reason, whatever city you're in, they seem to have just an endless amount of police officers on payroll.
Who are quite happy to just suicide and dive straight into a stream of bullets through an open window.
Yeah, they don't care really for their own personal protection.
I'm sure that's not standard police procedure.
Nope, pretty sure. They'll just pour in through doors and windows, but it is a blast to play. Really fun.
There you go, stealing Cheapy's catchphrase again.
Oh, is that what he says?
Yeah, he says everything's a blast.
Oh, well, it is. I'll steal it if I want, because it's true.
Well, he hasn't made a video for a while, so you can probably borrow it for now.
Sounds good. Is that everything you've been playing?
Pretty much. What else have you been playing?
Oh, let's see. Well, I just started playing... Well, I played Awesome Possum Kicks Dr. Machino's Butt. That was... I played it once to get footage, and then I just kept playing it because it's so atrociously bad.
That's a good reason to play any game.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. But it's kind of fun to just witness the awfulness. So, been having a blast actually playing that game. Let's see. I've also... Oh, I just picked up Uncharted Drake's Fortune on PS3. So, playing through that. Really enjoying that. I hadn't played any of the Uncharted games before. And it's a pretty linear game. There's not really any exploration that you need to do. You just need to go from point A to point B, and it's really just the story that drives you forward. Which I always like, so that's fun. What else? Put a little bit more time into Tales of the Abyss on 3DS. I won't go into too much of that, just more RPG whatnot. And yeah, I think that's about it. Oh no, I put in played a lot more of Vanquish on Xbox 360. I really want to get that game finished and done with. It's a blast to play, and it's not too long of a game. And I feel like I'm near the end, so I should be able to power through that tonight and get that over with.
No, it's closing in on maybe a decade since I last owned a console game.
What was the last console you had?
Well, that's a tricky one to answer because I have played on my brother's consoles in that time. Mostly sports games on the Xbox 360. Those are really the only console games I've played over the last probably 8 years.
Well, what was before that?
Everything. Before I got into PC games, I played a lot, basically anything on the Mega Drive or the Genesis, as you might like to call it. Had a ton of games on there. Primal Rage, Micro Machines, Theme Park, Mega Bomberman, all the good stuff.
Yeah, the Genesis is by far my favorite system.
The good old days.
Yep.
Way before loading screens.
No loading screens, good graphics, good frame rates. The golden age.
We did have a Nintendo 64 after that as well. Some pretty good games on there, but the graphics, it was kind of that awkward stage between completely two-dimensional and we kind of know how to do 3D. So here it is.
Yeah, I liked my N64, but I swear I put more time into my Genesis around the same time. And I remember my sister getting a PlayStation 1 shortly after, and I never cared for that system at all. I'm appreciating it more now, but looking at it back then, when I was a kid, I always thought it looked like crap.
PlayStation 1, I could never handle the loading screens, because nothing else out at the time had that problem. So it's like, why take the step backwards, almost?
Oh, yeah.
That's the way I looked at it. Loading screens I associated with the really old gaming systems, where you literally had to sit there for 5 minutes and wait for the menu to slowly scroll onto the screen. Way back.
Yeah, they weren't too bad on PlayStation 1. There was one game, and I'm thinking of maybe just doing this as like a bonus video. If you've ever played Soldier of Fortune on Dreamcast.
I've never played the Dreamcast. Don't you have like 8 of those?
I have 5. But the load screens on that are atrocious. It's really video worthy. I should video it in real time. And just watch it go, because it is pretty bad. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. Hopefully I'll be able to finish up Vanquish later. So anyway, I think we'll wrap this up. As always, the members of Ocean of Bees are trying to get funds to fund the website for another 3 years. Hopefully, or for as long as we possibly can. So if anybody likes any of the content on the website, this podcast, any of the blogs or videos, please do consider donating. Any little bit helps.
Yeah, but Ocean of Bees is not going anywhere, regardless of donations, but it will help us get the long-term, cheaper rate the more donations we get.
Yes.
So, send them in. And also, if anyone has any questions for me, then they could leave those in any of the usual places, and then next time I'm on the podcast, I'll answer those, even if that's in a year's time and all the questions are horribly outdated.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Welcome to Bonus Stage. As always, I'm your host, Marauder.
And I am Jab.
We'll catch you guys on the next bonus.